Hello YouTube. In my previous video, I was rewatching one of my videos that doesn't talk about any relationship, but more like a self-motivation video, and I was using a video game as an example. It, it's basically me using a video game character from the game Total War Warhammer 3, and I was describing how there's this faction where majority of the characters from that faction are passive. They just rely on disease and they just lay back and let the disease do its thing. And in turn, they are usually tanky while they rely on poisoning the enemy and the poison does its thing. In other words, it's attrition. They go through attrition warfare, and the irony of them being passive is that they don't really do anything, but they spread the disease. They rely on something else. And there's this video game character that sort of intertwined with passive and aggressiveness, both at the same time, but not in a sense where it's passive aggressive like a switch, but more like a both, having both intertwined and balance with each other, working together in a synergized way. Best way I could put it is like mixing two chemicals in order to make something new out of it, or mixing two characters and make a whole new personality out of it. And there was a very strong admiration that I love about that character. And in this video, it relates to basically the picture that I'm using right now, which is a medieval knights. Now, when it comes to video game, one of my favorite type of unit or type of character that I like to play as is a tanky, aggressive character. And the main reason why is because it mostly speaks to my inner core masculinity, that I like to lead the charge. You don't have to be smart, but you have to be calculated. Well, not calculated, more like stupidity but calculated. You have to be stupid but calculated, brave but smart enough not to get yourself killed, basically. And I feel like the architecture of the tank, because for those of you guys play video games, you guys know there's a thing called the Holy Trinity, where there's basically support, DPS, and tank. And the tank is essentially the one that goes in, soak in the damage for the team, and let the DPS do the killing, or at least the finishing blow, while the support helps you out. And you, as a tank, you're essentially the one that leads the team. And me personally, I love playing tank. I love being the quote unquote tanky character. I love being the knight, the knight in shiny armor, soaking up all the damage, being a little masochist. But what I love about the tank is not the masochist part, it's the part that you soak in the damage with a purpose. You're essentially a meat shield, but you don't absorb the damage out of pleasure. You absorb the damage out of purpose, that a role that you're trying to fulfill. And you have a team to back you up. And when you have a team that back you up, you feel invisible once the damage is done, and you get to return that damage yourself in order to defeat your enemies. Essentially, what I'm trying to say here in this video is that there's something admirable that I love about the tank. And the tank, the knights, they basically endure. They endure pain, but they do not seek pain out of pleasure. They seek pain out of purpose and endurance in order to elevate themselves into a higher status and purpose in life. And just like in video games, when you're soaking up all the damage, you don't do it out of pleasure, you do it out of purpose in order to elevate yourself and, most importantly, elevate your team. And this is why I said before that, the reason why I love playing tank is because it speaks to my core masculine fantasy, basically. And one of my favorite characters that I love playing in Overwatch, and surprisingly, I have a very high win rate when I play that character, is Reinhardt. Reinhardt, he is an absolute tank. He is like the tank of all tanks. And the greatest irony is that aside from Reinhardt, I also love playing Reaper. Reaper and Reinhardt, they're like my two favorite characters that I like to play, but the biggest difference is that Reaper is a DPS and Reinhardt, he's a tank. But still, I have like over 50% win rate with Reinhardt, and the reason why I have a high win rate with Reinhardt is because I understand my role as a tank, that I'm supposed to lead the team, soak in the damage, and because I'm in the team, I need to be a little bit reliant on my team for them to help me out, help me help me out good enough where I could fulfill my role, but at the same time excel, do a little extra for I could essentially carry the team. And when that does happen, when I synergize with my team very well, I essentially lead my team to victory. And I don't soak in the damage out of pleasure like, trolling. I soak in the damage out of purpose. And once the damage is done, I get to return that damage in forms of attacking or using my ultimate like Earth Shatter, and then I deal the damage against the enemy, and thus we win the game. And this is something that I kind of want to spread the message with this video. In other words, a little inspiration video. All I'm saying is that what I admire about the knights, what I admire about the tanks, I admire the strong man in the armor suit, is that they're there to essentially soak in the damage, act like a living meat shield, but with a sense of purpose. Not out of pleasure, not out of hedonistic desire, no. Out of the purpose of elevating oneself, but most importantly, elevating their own tribe, while being a little bit reliant on their own tribe to help them achieve such goal. And I feel like this is what's going on in our society, where the main reason why men are failing in society is because we're losing that sense of purpose. Nowadays, it's all about hedonism. There's nothing, well, there is such thing as seeking out purpose in order to elevate oneself, but it's becoming a rarity because our society is more focused on hedonism. We're focusing more on pleasure than purpose, and this is why men are failing. Men are failing because we basically don't have a tribe to back them up, and whenever they are trying, I know I sound like a broken record, and I know it's basically baffling at this point, but hear me out, guys. Men, they literally are trying, but the problem is our tribe, or should I say our team, is not supporting our men, aka the knights, to do their thing, and they're relying on us to synergize with them for they could essentially lead the team, carry us to victory, and have them do their own thing and soak in the damage. And once the damage is done, they get to return the damage themselves. But there's no team, and there's no sense of purpose. We prioritize pleasure over purpose instead of the other way around. And this is why we see relationships. We see not just relationship. I know I talk a lot about relationship in this channel, but if you guys think about it, it's not just relationship. It's everywhere in life, such as being productive in society, a man taking care of himself, a man taking care of his friendships, family, career, etc., etc. It's not just relationship. It's essentially many aspects of life. And the saddest thing is that we're gonna continue to see this downfall until society itself starts to either A, complain about it and seek answers for it, or B, literally, like in a literal sense, collapse, like a all out societal collapse. But right now, we're definitely in a downward spiral, but we haven't yet see it blow up in our faces yet. But this is something that I want to talk about and I want to address. And I know I sound like I'm rambling, but this is what I basically admire and what I want to talk about. I admire the knight. I admire the guy that put in a full suit of armor, acts like a living shield, and soaks in the damage for the team, but also leads the team. And once the damage is done, he returns the damage to them, to the enemy. And he not only elevated himself into a higher status with his purpose, but he also elevated his team to victory. Well, guys, I'm gonna end it here, but I hope you enjoyed this video and have a pleasant evening. Goodbye.